Welcome to Check the Gate, episode 12, here with Joe Carr. Joe, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Great to have you. I like to start with, a beverage of some kind, but to be honest, I am all out of this fine wine from Josh Wines.
I have
Here, help me out.
Yeah, would you like this? Here.
Oh, thank you. There we go.
There you go. I love the magic of filmmaking, the magic of television.
It's amazing what Zoom has done. We have been spreading Josh Wine from here to California and back flawlessly with every episode. So thanks. I've got to read a few announcements about Check the Gate. It's a weekly program supported by the Capital Cinema Cultural Exchange, which is a charitable organization, a nonprofit empowering emerging filmmakers to complete and present their projects in a rapidly changing media landscape, leveraging world-class industry expertise through the Northeast Filmmakers Lab. Thanks to our co-producer, Eric Boweiler, publicist Tammy Reese, and behind-the-scenes student intern Great Dane from UAlbany, Luke Williams. Today's sponsors include Price Chopper, Market 32, Albany Wine and Dine, which is where we met, filmalbany.com, Crew Me Up, Connect, Create, Collaborate, crewmeup.com, and yayflix.com out of Toronto. So next Thursday, our guest includes Emily Best of Seed and Spark. Register now at cinemaexchange.org. Joe, the New York Times writes, after 10 years serving as a world-class, I'm going to botch this, yay, followed by 10 years as an international industry executive, Joseph Carr set out on his own in 2005 to form his family-owned wine company. It was as Joseph Carr says, a chance to follow a dream. Influenced by wines of Bordeaux and Burgundy, your winemaking philosophy is balance, sophistication, and approachability. An old world style producer, but distinctly Californian, sourcing Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot from select vineyards in Rutherford, Oakville, and the Stag's Leap District. I'm wearing orange today because, not just because I'm a Met fan, but today is Anti-Gun Violence Day, and I don't want to take this into a political step, but I did want to just address what's going on and what are some of the thoughts, and if you have any thoughts about what's happening, if you'd like to share, we can, and then move into the work that we really would like to be talking about.
Yeah, gun violence certainly is on everyone's mind right now, but it's not a problem that just popped up, so to speak. It's been around for a very, very long time, and you see it not just in urban environments, but you see it all over the country. And there's no easy answer. So I'm hoping that somebody with great thoughts and vision will come up with an answer, because I'll be there to help support them.
That's awesome. And that's what we need, and I personally think that artists are very creative people, creative thinkers, innovative. And, one of the things that I want to do here at Capital Cinema Cultural Exchange is make our board more diverse. So if there's anybody tuning in here that can help us with this, I think that's the direction we need to go on our end. Now, we've started this show, Joe.
Call Ken Screbin. He's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
He worked at Channel 13, and he is a voice in the community. And he's a really interesting cat. He's a really nice man.
That's an awesome referral, and that's exactly what we do. Why we do this. It's through conversation that we come up with ways to move forward and help artists, which the lab is striving to do here in upstate New York. Now, we also talk about where people are at, and where people are at typically in the last few weeks is dealing with COVID. How has this impacted your life, your family, the business? Anything you're able to share would be welcome, in terms of us getting a better wider perspective of how this is affecting everyone.
Well, from a personal standpoint, I've been in my house since March 3rd, living here with my dog Molly, who is snoring right now.
Molly.
Man's best friend. Yeah, right. So being quarantined and contained, it's been difficult for me. I've missed a number of milestones in my family's lives, including my mom's 87th birthday. Mom, if you're on there, I didn't mean to mention your age. Sorry about that. 87 is the new 60. That's what I say. And I missed my daughter's birthday and my twin sister's birthday. So, that was kind of melancholy. On the serious side, I lost 2 friends to COVID. Was unable to see them as they got sick and was unable to attend funeral services for them. So it's not, COVID for me is not something that you watch on CNN. It's personal, and it's a struggle. All I can say about it, though, is I have found Americans' ability, resiliency to just find a way, find a way to find joy and to not stop doing what you've been doing in life. You have a hurdle, but you try to figure out how to get around it. From a work standpoint, we have not been impacted as you might think. Our wholesaler distribution still does very well. That they can call on things. Our restaurant partners, really tough, really tough shape. And I worked with a couple of restaurant groups in the Capital District to raise some money for workers at local hospitals. So that was something that was an endeavor we did a couple months ago. And my friend Dominic Pinomo at Yono's is, he's leading the way and feeding people in downtown Albany every day. And boy, that's something.
Yeah, I stopped down there at Yono's and I saw how they've rearranged, and Donna's here with us. Welcome, Donna. And just what they did to, pivot, to turn their restaurant into something that can serve the community and serve people in downtown Albany.
Well, they're pivoting and they're also dribbling as fast as they possibly can, because they have filled a void that you would think others would step up and do, but the Pronomos really led the way.
Exactly. And they've led the way in what brought us together, which is the Albany Wine and Dine for the Arts, which I'd like to get into. How did you get connected to Albany Wine and Dine for the Arts?
Dominic and Yono had some grainy videotapes of me from the 80s. So it was essentially blackmail. Donna knew me, the Pronomos knew me when I was a sommelier at the Sagamore Hotel back in the 80s, back in the mid 80s. I had a tarnished career before that, working on Lark Street. So yeah, that's kind of how they got me involved. And Nick and I did an event called the Sommelier Throwdown, where we challenged each other on wines and going back and forth. And it's actually become a big event. I do it in Martha's Vineyard for the Martha's Vineyard Wine Festival, and it sells out. Nick came out to Martha's Vineyard to do it, and it's just people having a lot of fun with wine. We're not too serious, but we like to kid one another and open the audience's minds to wines they might not normally see or taste or understand, and give it a little bit of a history, and it's fun. So yeah, that's how I got involved with it initially.
So I have some good news. I see Joe Carr has joined us here on Zoom.
Hi, Mom. I mentioned your age earlier, Mom. I didn't mean to. 87 is the new 60. Remember that. 65, maybe 70.
Happy belated birthday, Mrs. Carr.
I'll be talking about her more as the program goes on.
You know, I hope you will, because my next question is, where does the name Josh come from? I know it's on the bottles, but if you could share it with those who don't know.
Josh was my father's nickname, which I did not know. I had made the wines with a man named Tom Larson, and as we were making them, we were talking about our fathers, and both of our fathers had passed away around the same time, about 10 years prior. And I was with my mom and my twin sister down in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I was taking pictures of all these signs. And my mom's like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that?" I said, "Well, I need a brand name for this new wine I created." And I told her about the story with Tom and talking about our dads. And she said, "Well, why don't you call it Josh?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's great. Who's Josh?" She said, "Well, Josh is your father." And I'm looking at my twin sister going, "What has mom just told me?" Because my father's name was Joseph. I'm starting to panic. And she goes, no, you know, your father had a life before kids. You know, he used to race stock cars and work in the woods and go to bars, and he had some friends down at Lebanon Valley Speedway that called him Josh. And I was like, wow, that was a big relief. Mom, thanks for telling me that. And I said to her, you know, I never heard anyone in our house call my father Josh. And she said, "Yeah, that's right. Because anybody that called your father Josh wasn't allowed in our house. They were all the rabble rousers. And they're tuning in. You know who you are."
Raise your hand.
That's where it came from. And then my mom wrote Josh on a piece of paper, and my mom practiced calligraphy. So I kind of used that as a model to create the label. It's reminiscent of my mother's handwriting and calligraphy.
What an amazing moment here to have your mom on Zoom with us and for you to share that story.
Mute her. Make sure she's muted.
Maybe we'll.
I mean, the good thing about her helping me with this is she gets free wine for the rest of her life. I had no idea how much wine an 87-year-old woman could drink. It's remarkable.
That's a nice perk. It's a nice family perk.
It is.
So I want to just share a story. My mother's family is from Palermo, Italy, and my grandfather came to the U.S. when he was 12, settled in Easton, and all his brothers settled into Easton. My grandfather moved to Astoria, Queens. But I remember as a kid visiting with my mother's uncles in Easton, and then going down in the basement.
That's where the basket
They
was.
grew wine grapes, and then there was this cardboard 5x5 thing filled with grapes. And my mother told me the story that as kids, their vacation was to go from Queens to Easton, Pennsylvania, and step on those grapes. Is that how you got started? You know,
No.
they got started.
No, I did it a little differently. You know, yeah. Ask me that question about stomping grapes later. I'll come back to that. But no,
Okay.
I was a sommelier for many years, and then I worked for wineries for many years. And then after 9/11, I had this epiphany, terrible day in my life. And
Where were you?
I was in Cape Cod, and my wife was in Albany, and our daughter was in New Orleans. And I was getting ready to go to a meeting in Boston that day. And after the second plane hit, you know, I was on the phone with my wife, and I called the person I was going to meet with in Boston. His name was Blake Allison. And unfortunately, his wife was on the first plane. So, you know, life changed for the world that day, and life changed for me. At the time, I was president of a pretty large wine company out of Australia, working here in the United States, heading up the United States, and I just decided I couldn't do that anymore. I needed to stop traveling all over the world. I wanted to spend time with my wife, and I wasn't going to miss any more important things in life because of a career. So Dee and I, we sat and drank a bottle of wine and talked all night. And at the end of the night, I wrote my resignation to one of the greatest jobs I ever had. And the next day, we refinanced our house and started a small wine company. We lived here on the East Coast, and Dee did the books. You know, our desk was a picnic table, and we shared a laptop computer. And I flew out to California and started to work with a winemaker named Ted Edwards, and created the first Joseph Carr wines. And then a couple years later, Josh came around. So that's how I started.
So I'm thinking 2001, that is pre-internet video.
Yeah, we started.
That was just starting. As 1995, video started to come around. So no, video started to come around, and
yeah, we started 2002, but it took until 2005 to release our first wine, and pretty much my life savings.
wow.
So it was a little crazy. I get called crazy a lot.
So I often ask our guests, where did you get the bug for the arts?
Well, my mom took me to the Clark Art Institute when I was probably 10, 11 years old with my twin sister and probably Stuart Lewin, who's chiming in from New Hampshire. And Stuart's parents were teachers. So we were very fortunate. We grew up in a lumber mill town, a real kind of a blue collar place, but there were no movie theaters, there was no theater, there weren't any restaurants, maybe a diner, but we lived 20 minutes away from Williamstown, which was where, so much art happened there between the Clark Art Institute and their collection of modern art, impressionist painters, Dutch masters, and then the Williams College Theater, where Circling Around, the directors of Circling Around in New York City came and produced shows, and my mom took me to my first play. So that's where it happened. And then from there, when I got into high school, my art teacher was also my wrestling coach. So I spent time with him, and I met a woman named Joanne Peterson, who was the choral director and directed plays and musicals. And she kind of took me underneath her wing to help me explore theater and music and things like that.
So Eric Vollweiler, who I think is listening, he's our co-producer. He had you as, I think, an instructor when he was attending NIST. And I believe one of your colleagues, John Romeo, is on with us.
John Romeo. Yeah, when I was in college, I went to college for dramatic arts and beer and girls, but the dramatic arts is more important. Wound up becoming a wine steward, but no, I worked at the Empire State Institute for the Performing Arts with Bill Franconis, who was just a marvelous director and writer. And when I was there, Patrick White was there. Patrick White, who's now the director, a very great local director, was there, and a lot of great. Alina Binder was there. John, remember? She was in Blotto, and some of the band members of Blotto all worked at that theater, and it was a great place to be. It was at the Egg, and we're rehearsing in the basement or 3 floors down. Never saw the light of day, and I was a dancer, so danced in a show or two, and then I was building sets and doing everything that you get to do when you get to have a little part of your life in the theater.
That must have been a really cool time. You mentioned Blotto. Paul Rapp is on our board.
Oh yeah,
B. Harvey Blotto.
yeah. Oh yeah, I know Harvey. Harvey worked at the Egg, I think. I'm pretty sure he did. Was he Blotto? Was he Bowtie?
He was Lee Harvey.
Lee Harvey. Okay, well, Bowtie.
Drummer.
Some of them were there before, and some came. I know Greg came before, and then after, I think. And at the time, you talk about arts. The music scene in Albany and the Capital District was very vibrant. So you could go to 288 or the QE2, where Char and Dave were running, and see really cutting edge artistic acts, and then the converse of that, you can go up to Saratoga and see the New York City Ballet, which is another thing that my mom took me to when I was very young. And my friends would say, well, who's your hero? I said, well, I really like Mikhail Baryshnikov and Rudolf Nureyev. And they're like, who? Like, yeah, there's these guys that jump up in the air and spin around 17 times. I thought that was a very athletic, amazing art form. And I still follow the ballet. I know my mom goes, and my twin sister go every year. So yeah, been around a lot of the arts.
It's amazing how all these different, the way in which art impacts our life, and helps us in many ways to think about things differently, look at things differently. Marcus Pryor, who's the president of Albany Wine and Dine, was here on a previous episode. And I asked him to share the connection between the art and commerce and community and wine. And I was wondering what your response might be to those connections.
Well, if you study to be an artist, I went to Geneseo State thinking I was going to be a gym teacher, and then they dropped the phys ed program, and I wound up studying with a woman named Nona Sherman. She was an original member of the Humphrey Weiderman Company. And one of my classmates was Norwood Pennywell. His nickname was PJ. He went on to be the principal dancer for Garth Fagan Dance Company. It's an predominantly African-American company. He choreographed Lion King. And I also went to school with Michael Harney, who starred in Orange is the New Black, and David Jerome was one of my classmates. He was just recently on the Broadway production of War Paint. So to kind of get back to your question, when you have an opportunity to work with very talented people like that and be around them, you look at business from a very different way. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but I find many of the entrepreneurs that I've met along the way have some kind of background in the creative process. I mean, you have to have the discipline of business, but when it comes to creating companies or wine brands or something like that, I looked at things, I think, a little differently than other people. I had very specific ideas about labels, and I had a very specific idea about how my wines were crafted and made. And I worked with artists, I worked with a lot of video people, web designers. So it's, for me, having the background in the arts, I think gave me a big leg up in some ways, and how I would approach certain things, and also how I would work with other people. They're definitely intertwined. I mean, if you didn't have corporate sponsors from successful business people, the arts would have a struggle. We always participated with David Miller at the Albany Symphony for many, many years, and that was what a wonderful community that was. And so I guess what happened was, when the end of my art career, I wouldn't say the end, it was kind of a pivot. I wasn't involved in the theater or or dance or music anymore. I never forgot that. And when I started my wine business, I applied my art background to producing wines, crafting wines. And then when we became successful, as we became successful, I went back to the place where I started, whether it was the museums or the symphony or the opera or the dance companies and arts foundations. And I wanted to be there. I wanted to be back among the people that I was very comfortable with. So that's why we do this. That's why we're involved with this.
If you could put your finger on one creative aspect, is it theater, is it dance, is it music that influences you, or is it story that informs your decision-making creative process?
Well, storytelling, you know, I like to use the fancy word raconteur, the French word for the storyteller. I mean, brands and companies all have their stories. Certainly they have their products, and the products must stand on their own. But nowadays, you know, the millennial generation is very interested in the story. Mm-hmm. So we don't just make wine, we tell the stories behind the wines. And my particular wine has a very rich story to it about a tribute to my father and gratitude. In terms of all the different arts, I mean, coming from a dance background, you know, you'd be dance and theater, you'd be surprised that first off, you learn discipline. I mean, you can't be, John will tell you, you can't be a good actor unless you are just buttoned down, ready to do it. I mean, it takes time, discipline, real commitment to being good at it. And the same with dance, you learn how to breathe, you learn how to stand in front of people and talk to them at ease. And once you can do that, then you can tell your story. I've been very fortunate in the last couple of years. I've been working with a filmmaker, David Palmer, who has directed a number of documentaries. He did a lot of music videos. I believe he was part of the team of The Wedding Crasher and Hot Tub Time Machine. And we've been lucky because we've been doing a lot of commercials for these brands, but they're not the 30-second soundbite because they're on social media or on-demand TV. We get a chance to tell the story, and telling the story is so important today of all days.
You're exactly right. I mean, for me, everything starts with the story, you know, and the story behind your bottle and the label, but then it flows. So to me, I can picture music or some painting or something that drives your creative imagination. I'm just gathering that somehow all of that art upbringing influences your creative workflow today.
Yeah, you know, and also, I mean, I grew up in a place and a time where, you know, we had a television set where we only had 3 channels, and my mom really is like, TV's off, you know, you're done. She's so mean. I'm kidding, Mom. Don't cry. Don't cry. She wasn't mean. She was doing the right thing. But when you get back to storytelling, the storytelling happened in our kitchen because our neighbors and our relatives would come along and they would sit around and tell stories about what happened here, what happened in Bly Hollow. Did you hear this? Did you hear that? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And then you learn the history, your family history or another family's history, and you're captivated because there is no TV, there's no internet, there's no other noise going on, there's people. And I think that's probably, along with my art background, that was probably one of my biggest influences of this little town called Berlin, Petersburg, and Cherry Plain, and the hollows and the stories within those hollows. You know, Jack Legs Diamond had a house up in Grafton. You know, he was a big bootlegger, so we would hear stories about him. I think my father cut some trees on his land after he'd sold it years later. But yeah, that was the richness of this kind of homespun background that I have.
And kids love hearing stories. It's the one thing that they'll hang around the dinner table for a little bit longer.
You can
To
get
hear
it
those
to the
stories.
dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to get them there. Good luck.
Yeah, even in COVID. Oh man. But good for your mom to tell you to turn that TV off. We're trying to get our 14-year-old son to turn off Fortnite. But it is
She found a really cool technique that I had never seen before. She just unplugged it.
Way to go, Mrs. Carr. We're gonna try that.
Power's out.
If anybody has any questions, please write them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them. I can't get to Facebook, so if somebody's on Facebook and can relay those questions to us, please do that. You're listening to Check the Gate with Joe Carr. And for those who are able to, you're able to make a donation to support our Northeast Filmmakers Lab at cinemaexchange.org. Joe, are artists essential to our communities?
Well, if you can show me a culture anywhere in the world in the history of time that survived without art, then yes, but you won't be able to find that. It's absolutely essential. It teaches our children the past, and it gives them the ability to see into the future. So yes, you can't. I can't imagine a culture existing without art. It's a reflection of your society.
Okay, so totally agree. Some questions are coming in now. If you weren't a winemaker, what would you be?
Oh, I'd be hanging around the theater someplace, probably doing something like that. I'm writing a book right now, but I really like the theater. It was so much fun when you're young. It really is. It's a tough business. I live down the street from what's her name? She was in Fried Green Tomatoes. She was really great. Her and her dad. Her dad wrote Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and I got to meet a lot of great actors. They used to call themselves gypsies. They can't do that anymore. I can't use the word gypsy, but yeah, I'd probably be in the theater or.
So the person who has asked this question, her name is Julie Wake. And
yeah.
Tell you that.
I'll give you a heads up. Julie Wake heads up the Cape Cod Arts Foundation here in Cape Cod and has introduced me to some of the greatest artists that live here on the Cape from all kinds of different genres. And I must say, living here for a while gave me an opportunity to jump back into being involved in the arts community again. Because when I first moved here, I really didn't have any connection, and Julie kind of opened the door. And we're involved in all kinds of things. We sponsored the Pops concert last year with a Broadway actor. Can't remember his name, but it was a great show. And I'm going to be doing some more arts events with them as time goes on.
Well, building upon that, what would you say is your reach through Josh Cellars in terms of supporting the arts? I know you do the
all over the country.
Nantucket.
Yeah, we're sponsored Nantucket Film Festival, Woods Hole Film Festival, Martha's Vineyard Film Festival, Provincetown Film Festival. We've done a lot with the Cape Cod Museum, Cape Cod Theater, but also before that, I mean, we were involved with Lake George Opera, Albany Symphony. And in terms of reach, I might not be involved in everything, but we're in all kinds of arts organizations all over the country. We have these what we call an installation, where we recreate my father's garage and my garage, and you can go in and taste wines. And we'll put that installation at film festivals, music festivals, things like that, all over the country. We do hundreds and hundreds of events every year. So yeah, we're doing it.
We were on the phone a few weeks ago. You were mentioning that would be something if the Northeast Filmmakers Lab were able to meet in person again. That might be something that Josh Wine would be.
Oh no, we're absolutely going to be your next sponsor, either viral or in person. No matter what, we'll make it happen. And we got to do that.
That's awesome. Thank you. So Julie's follow-up question is, who would play you in a movie?
Brad Pitt. Who else? Brad Pitt.
There you go. There's the answer. So
Kevin Costner.
What's that?
Kevin Costner. He's second.
Oh, I could see that. I could see that. Good choice in
But if
casting.
they're method actors, they'd have to drink a lot, so some might not survive. John, you know what I'm talking about, right? You don't want to be a method actor and play me. It'd take too long. You wouldn't survive the rehearsal.
Okay, so speaking of John, he asks a question, and this kind of ties back into story and what I've heard it is, which is bringing us back to the campfire, right? The dinner table of telling those stories or being at the movies is coming around, circling around, telling stories. And what about film is attractive to you or draws your attention?
Well, I think a long time ago, I would have loved to have gone to NYU and studied filmmaking with Martin Scorsese. For me, as a little boy going to see a movie, that was like we would go to the drive-in. Where did we go, Mom? Was it Cambridge or Hoosick Falls? Somebody had a drive-in, and just to go to the movies. I mean, I mostly went to the movies to the drive-ins with my parents when I was young. I didn't go to a movie theater probably until I was 16, 17. But boy, it takes you to another place and another world, and you see things that you can only imagine. I studied a little bit of film in college, and went to a lot of independent little small theaters. What's the one in Albany, down on Delaware Avenue?
Spectrum?
Spectrum, yeah, that was a great theater. And the Satyrian Channel right now has some great vintage films. So film to me is very important. It's a great medium. And I've had a great opportunity to work with some filmmakers in the past couple of years, and it's magic, it's craziness. It's a lot of fun.
It can be very crazy, and it's kind of like, a circus comes to town, and you throw up the big top and pull everybody in underneath it, and you put on a show, and
yeah, we shot all the Josh Cellars commercials up in Malibu. These are the guys that did The Wedding Crasher, and they recreated my father's garage. There were 70 people on the set. It was big. They had a rail, what they call a railroad car with the projector, the camera on it, and
the dolly tracks.
Yeah, dolly tracks, and
Okay.
I had stylists and makeup artists, and it was like being in the movies. It was fun, but all I had to do was tell my story. I didn't have to memorize a script to just tell the stories, and it was great. It was great to work with artists like that.
That's one of my favorite places, Malibu. Were you up at Point Duomo or?
I was at some soundstage where they did a lot of westerns, I guess.
Okay.
There was something I was going to tell you. I like Last of the Mohicans. Daniel Day-Lewis, he's like one of my favorite actors, and he's actually a friend of a friend. I have a guy that lives down the street who's in the film industry, knows Daniel very well. But I love that movie about history and reliving it all. So, yeah.
Great actor. A question comes in here from Carmen Lookshire, who's a singer, songwriter, wonderful person. And I met her through one of our board members, Joe Ventura, Eating Cafe, where she sings just about every Thursday there at Eating Cafe at around cocktail hour. Any tips for marketing your products for artists?
For artists, how to market themselves? Boy, Julie Wake would know. Julie Wake has discovered so many great musicians that are doing these online concerts. I don't know if you're doing that yet, but boy, I attended one the other night and just opened my eyes to the potential. And the quality of the work is really, it's not bad. If you've got the right sound equipment, you can really put on a good show and get yourself out there. I mean, we live in social media world here. So as a marketing person, we've had over 150 million views on YouTube, and I average about.
Whoa, that one was close.
You got a storm there?
We do. It's coming in.
Wow.
Did you hear that?
That's me.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
That's me.
It set off someone's alarm here.
Yeah, social media is the way to go. I mean, I get, like I said, I get about 1 million hits a month on the Josh Cellars brand internationally. So you got to collaborate with somebody, find somebody that can help you get that word out about your talent and what you're offering. I mean, everyone says that, but you can do it. You can dive into it.
Oh, I muted myself in case we heard another gunshot lightning bolt. Do you mind if I see if we can get Julie to come on and see if she's got any thoughts?
Yeah, she'll come on. Julie.
Hey, Julie, can you hear us?
Hi.
Hi. So do you have any advice for Carmen on marketing products? I know she produces a CD, has launched her first CD for artists.
Absolutely. So I think, through the past experience of the past 3 months and the challenges for artists right now with gigs and performances literally being shut down and halted overnight, there is a silver lining to this where the virtual platform has offered all kinds of opportunity for exposure for artists. But here's the deal. You must present yourself in the highest quality. So spend some time really understanding the platform that works best for you. You want to represent your product, just like Josh Cellars' product, at the highest level. You want to really think about your brand personally and professionally, and you don't want to release anything that doesn't look and sound really good. The second piece of advice is consistency. What I'm seeing success with artists is that they're consistently promoting or putting their work out there for all of us to see on a regular basis. And again, at a very high quality, visually and sound quality has to be high or you're going to lose an audience. And so it's what you guys are talking about. It's creating the storytelling about your work. People connect with artists across all mediums through storytelling. People want that connection right now. You have an opportunity. You have a captive audience right now.
Julie, could you tell us a little bit about where you're zooming in from and what you do? She'll mention a few things.
I know where she's zooming in. She's there with 2 cats.
Don't judge me for having 2 cats. I am zooming in also from Cape Cod, probably 5 miles from Joe, in Centerville. There's somebody mowing the lawn next door, so I'll shut my door. I am the executive director of the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod. And so we're here to really promote and celebrate and support arts and culture here on Cape Cod. We are a hothouse of arts and culture here that has been greatly affected by the current climate of what's going on.
Julie, tell them about some of the things, like we've had some things cancel or get postponed, and how you're addressing that, because that's the condition that any of the artists are suffering from.
Sure. So our organization has two very large events each year, and one of them, Josh Cellars is a supporter of, so we're very grateful for that. And that's the Citizens Bank Pops by the Sea event that happens every August. And we haven't actually publicly announced it, but I guess I'll give you the first.
Thanks.
You heard it here first, folks.
Heard it here first. Is that we have officially moved the event. This is an event that's been going on. This would have been our 35th year celebrating arts and culture here on the Cape with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Keith Lockhart is the conductor. And so this year was Keith Lockhart's 25th anniversary of conducting the Pops. And so it was going to be a big year for us. And because of COVID, we've had to pause. But I always have a hard time with canceling, and I like to rethink about how we could, or reimagine how we could to produce something. And because we had done a virtual arts and music festival, we felt like it was in our wheelhouse because we had learned all kinds of things, what to do and what not to do. And again, going back to the quality of productions, we are working closely with the BSO and also a videographer here on Cape Cod who will help produce a virtual event. Unfortunately, we don't think the BSO will be able to play together still, because it's, almost 100 people on stage. So unfortunately it will not be live, but we will have Keith live and some of his greatest performances. We'll have an opportunity to talk to him, and this will be broadcasted through for everyone. So you don't have to live on Cape Cod to enjoy it this year. You can watch it online.
We'll help promote that, Julie, here on our network and get that out.
Great.
That's wonderful. And that's like what I'm experiencing, is that if there's a silver lining in all of this, is that there is an opportunity to, as all of our industries got crushed, things are actually opening up, and that we're able to connect with people, professionals, and be exposed to arts in a different way.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm starting to follow things that I had never done before. And so it is if people can pause and kind of listen to their heart of what they need right now, it's a great opportunity to expose yourself to really interesting things that are available. But I want to make it clear that people should still pay for the art and support the arts in any way they can. And one way you can do that is to not ask for refunds for ticket sales, especially for our smaller cultural organizations. So that's been something that I've been talking about for the past 3 months. It could really crush a smaller organization, a smaller theater. So across the country, I really hope that people rethink about asking for that $25, $75 ticket refund.
And some folks can really afford to do that. They might be able to take their federal check that they got and help pay for some of those tickets. If you would stay on, Julie, I've got 2 more questions for us, Joe.
Okay.
In the world of in the filmmaking world, the second to last shot is called the Abby Singer, and so this is our Abby Singer shot, and the next is the Martini. But why invest in the arts?
Well, I'm going to let Joe answer that first, and then I'll answer it. Because I've asked Joe this question many times.
Well, I can't see a reason why not to. I mean, you have to protect your culture and your society, no matter what happens. Myself and Josh Cellars, we set out the foundations of what we were all about, and one of our commitments has always been to the arts, because it is an organic dynamic of how I grew up in my family, and I was always around it. And if you're always around it, why would you ever consider abandoning it? To convince other people to invest in the arts, it's the right thing to do. It just is. It's compelling. You see the result of your investment, whether it be a film or theater or a gallery or a podcast or so many other things. It's tangible. And you see the results, and the results aren't just for yourself, but they're for your children or your grandchildren or people, certainly younger people. So that's my, I don't know if that's compelling enough, but that's my attitude about it.
Well, it reminds me, Joe, of, I picture the quality of life improving, not just here and now, but you're talking about the next generation and what people can learn. And there's a lot of, one of the things that I think is happening is there's a transfer of knowledge through things like this that we're doing. And, and we're able to help each other. So that's really neat. Julie, your thoughts? Why invest?
Why invest in the arts? I think the arts have the power to connect us together, like today, right? So through storytelling, through film, I think that the power of the arts can connect communities to recover from things. I think that the arts engage students in no other way than in the art room. And it has the power to heal us through hard times. Also helps people convey thoughts and feelings that are often difficult in hard times. The idea of not having arts funded is frightening to me, because it brings so much empathy and compassion to the world, and we can't live without it. And I think often the arts are marginalized because people just kind of take them for granted. And I think that a lot of times arts are the last resort for challenging populations. And we see it through, decades of studies that the arts help transform people to be better and to achieve things they never thought they could. So if you're not going to invest in the arts, then I think that would be a really missing component to our world. How's that?
Well said, Julie.
100%.
I'll write that check right now. That's right. I already did.
Write another one, Joe. Go for it. All right. So the martini. Julie, I thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate you joining with us. And if you would, I'll give my information to Joe. If you would send us any links, we'd love to celebrate your organization any way we can. Love coming out to the Cape. Had many wonderful summers out there with my friends.
I have to give a quick shout out to my twin sister, because I didn't tell her about this. And when she finds out, she's going to be really ticked off at me. And I know my mom is going to narc me out here right when this is done. But, my twin sister was beside me when we went to the Clark Art Institute. And we got to share a lot of art and theater along the way. Lisa actually wound up working at the Clark Art Institute after she got out of William and Mary, studied art history and education. Big influence in my life. She's still gonna hate me for not telling her about this.
Well, you know, Joe, we do have just a few moments here.
Have some questions?
Hey, Gene, can you hear us?
No, Gene, you can't.
Gene, are you on with us?
I muted her.
You muted her.
She was.
Well,
She's maybe gone now.
Okay.
She's talking to my sister.
I tried. I tried to give her the last word, but Joe, I'm going to give you the last word. What's the best advice you've ever received as an actor, a business executive, family, anything that the one thing that you would pass on or like to share?
Well, to thy own self be true. Like, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you have to ask yourself, what did I do today? Did I make a difference in someone's life? Was it all about me? What can I do tomorrow to find joy and to spread joy? And sometimes it's hard to look in the mirror and find that answer, but that's the answer. My wife passed away 2 years ago. So I have been struggling to find that answer. And I recently started to write a book to go back to art and to be creative, but it's really a memoir, a love story. And it's looking in that mirror every day. So that's what I would say.
That's extremely well said. Thank you so much, Joe. And it gives me hope. Part of what I think can come out of this is a renaissance. If we start talking about it now, what do we need in order for that renaissance to happen? Obviously, we need sponsors and supporters like Josh Cellars, which we're grateful to have. But Chet Opalka talked about three things: collaboration, collaboration, and collaboration amongst artists and arts organizations. What do you think? Is there anything that comes to mind that's needed in order to have a renaissance? It was great to have Julie on and sort of connecting the dots here, and that's just part of it.
I mean, change is always going to happen, and a renaissance happens. I mean, for me, I look at it as it will happen because things have changed and you must adapt to them. You must, art is a compelling thing. I want to make the comparison to winemaking, and art and theater and all that. You know what the comparison is? I woke up one day and I realized I didn't have a choice. I had to do this. I had to do this. I could never look at myself in the mirror and say, you didn't take a chance. You didn't go and do this thing. And this renaissance will happen because people will be compelled and they will say, you know what, I don't have a choice. I've got to do this. I must do this. I mean, I know the musicians that are out there and the actors that are out there, they don't have a choice. It's in them. It's in their heart and it's in their head. They have to do this. They can't breathe unless they do. So exciting things are ahead.
I agree. And that's a great place to end, letting us know that we've got to follow our passion and we've got to do it now more than ever. So Joe Carr, I can't thank you enough for being on with us today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in here on Zoom and those who are on Facebook. We will replay this and it'll be out on YouTube on our channel. And thanks to all our sponsors, Price Chopper, Market 32, Albany Wine and Dime for the Arts, Crew Me Up, Connect, Create, Collaborate, crewmeup.com, and now Josh Cellars. We're grateful to have you on board.
Cheers.
Cheers. If your business would like to become a sponsor of future episodes, maybe you can't do it now, perhaps in the future. cinemaexchange.org is where you'll find us. Enjoy Josh Wines. Be well. Stay healthy. Stay connected. And Mike Camoy, protect the gate. Our gate is good. Moving on, people.
Peace.